2024 Ohio State spring game. Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com joins me. Tony, it has been a minute since we have been inside Ohio Stadium. Last time was yesterday.
That's true.
For a practice.
It has been for several minutes.
For a game type substance, it has been a minute since we've been in here. Last time was the Minnesota game last year, which, boy, you think about what was going on for that Minnesota game and where things were and who Ohio State's starting quarterback was and all of that kind of stuff. And boy, the world has changed around Ohio State football quite a bit since the last time we were in here for a game.
Yeah, it's changed around the world of Alabama football as well, which has created even more of a change around Ohio State. But the level of anticipation for this game in this season is very high, and this is kind of the start of it. And as I tweeted just now, this is when the internet can decide who Ohio State's starting quarterback is, and then go ahead and die on that hill.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And not just who should be the starter, but who should just quit football altogether.
Yes. Hey, maybe more than one person should quit football altogether. Listen, this is a very important day. It is. I think this is one of these things where I think we should start the show by reminding everyone this is your opportunity to watch the team this spring. This is 1/15 of the coach's opportunity to watch the team this spring. And, that doesn't even include, the time in the film room and meeting rooms and all that kind of stuff. So we have plenty of times in the past seen the guy who looks good in the spring game not necessarily be the guy who wins the job in the fall. So, you may walk away from this saying definitively, this is the guy. Not so fast, my friends.
Yeah, I always go back to the 2019 spring game where Justin Fields was, I think, 4 of 13 for like 130 yards, but 98 of those yards went to Benjamin Victor, and Matthew Baldwin threw for like 250 yards in that game. So I know the Joe Burrow, Dwayne Haskins thing, games were entertaining. Joe Burrow attempted to catch a touchdown pass at one point on a throwback. So there'll be some fun things, but it is just one. What is the percentage that 1 of 15 is? Is it like 7-ish%?
It should be
a little under 7.
6 3/4%.
And then you add in another 25 to 30 fall practices in camp, an entire summer. It's a very small fraction, but it's in the shoe. It means something. It's going to be fun to watch. Hopefully, offense versus defense, and based on everything we've seen so far this spring, there will be some plays made. You will be talking about some guys afterwards.
Let's just start with the guy everyone's already talking about, because he was the guy who everyone was talking about when he was in high school. And then he was the guy who everyone was talking about when he went to camps in high school. And then he was the guy everyone was talking about during the recruiting process. And
Ian Moore.
We'll get to him in a minute. Nice idea, not where we're going. Jeremiah Smith has been kind of the story of the spring. And in a year where Ohio State has an open starting quarterback position, and has all of these guys back, it takes a lot for a true freshman to become the story of the spring. But we have had plenty of times where we're trying to be, okay, just a freshman, gotta wait. And you keep hearing it from everyone you talk to. And then we go into practices, and it's just every time we're in there, he does something incredible. And this is, I think people have seen the highlights, and, but a lot of times it's, hey, there's one 8-second video clip, or in the case of the practice on Friday, media wasn't allowed to shoot video, so there was the one coach who had his cell phone out, and you could kind of see something down the sideline behind. It's a little like Jaws, where it's scarier because you can't see it. It's just, you just saw like this arm come up and pull in the football. It was like you didn't get the whole picture. But this is going to be kind of the first chance for not just Ohio State fans, but the nation to see Jeremiah Smith. It feels like, what are the odds that Jeremiah Smith's name is not trending on Twitter at some point, maybe nationally, later on this afternoon?
Yeah, percentage odds that doesn't happen, I would put it like 10%. Mm-hmm. Now we keep talking about him. This would just be the one time this spring when he doesn't do anything. That would not be great for the viewing experience. But I don't expect that to happen. was sitting over here in the press box a while ago, and Stephen Means from Cleveland.com comes in. He's like, "So what's the over/under on Jeremiah Smith touchdowns today?" And I was like, "I don't know, 1.5." He's like, "That's what I put it at."
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
because if you put it at 0.5, you without thinking, you take the over.
Oh yeah, 100%.
1.5,
yeah.
you have to start thinking about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It becomes an actual decision. But he has been beyond the hype, because you hear the hype, you're like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
He's an outstanding high school player. You dial it down when you hear that kind of stuff, but then you actually get to see it. You get to hear about it in college, and when we see him do stuff, it's like you're to the point now where you laugh about it, because it's no longer like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. It's like, I believe it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And the thing that's been crazy about watching him do this spring is he's not doing this against walk-ons. He's not out there with the third team and he's going up against a bunch of guys who are gonna, maybe we'll see on the field in 2 years. We've seen him get Jermaine Matthews maybe a couple times. We've seen him get Denzel Burke a couple times. We've seen him get Denzel Burke with Caleb Downs also kind of in coverage on the same play at one point. I'm now kind of hearing myself talk and going, we are absolutely going to, if he doesn't have a good day, everyone's going to be like, you guys. And here's the thing, it's everyone.
Yeah, it's not just us.
Everyone. And so I really don't want to set an unrealistic expectation, but it's also just kind of, I don't know, is it like when people, like P.T. Barnum would set up a thing and people would go and come out of the tent and be like, you have to go in there. You're not going to believe what's in there. This is the chance for everyone to see it. What kind of day he has is going to be at least partly up to what kind of day the quarterbacks have. We have seen a relatively strong correlation between, hey, this quarterback looks really good and this quarterback is throwing to Jeremiah Smith. But this is an opportunity for Will Howard, Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, Julian Sayin, and Aaron Noland. All five guys will undoubtedly get a chance to play today. What are you expecting the division of quarterback reps to be, and are you expecting it to be kind of in that order of maybe Brown Howard versus instead of Howard Brown, but then Keenholz, then Sayin, then Nolan, or how are you expecting to divide those reps up?
I think this is what I'm trying to figure out is how fresh do they want, or how tight do they want their quarterbacks to be? Like, you don't want Devin Brown to go in for a series and then whatever happens, it may be 3 and out, it may be seven plays, and then sit for 5 drives or 4 drives. So I would think it'd be maybe like Brown Howard, and then Keenholz, and then
probably
Brown Howard, Keenholz, Sayin, Nolan for this. Then so I'm interested. I wonder how they've done that so that they can get the guys that are vying for the job some good snaps, but also you don't want Devin Brown sitting for 2 quarters between series, and same thing for Will Howard. So I think you might see those two, but if you do that and you don't include Lincoln Keenholz in there, then you've made your statement about those 3. So maybe the freshmen play in the second half.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I think.
Not to interrupt, but Julian Sayin has probably done enough to play in the first half, right?
Yeah, and I think you could maybe rotate the 3 guys, the 3 returning guys, in the first half, because you're sitting if you have a drive and then you're done and you go sit on the sidelines while the next quarterback has a drive. That's how it's going to be during a normal game. So if you're rotating 3 guys, that's only slightly longer. That's,
they move pretty quickly because it is still at practice, so they can speed things up.
Yeah,
and it is Fox, and there will be commercials, but
can't wait for the guy with the red hat to get his work in this spring. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, in terms of quarterbacks, it feels like you kind of get different answers on the order in which guys are, and I don't know that there's a clear, Devin Brown is definitely first, and Will Howard is definitely second, and Lincoln Keenholz is definitely third, and Julian Sayin is definitely fourth. I don't know that there's a clear order right now that anyone has really truly separated yet. Devin Brown has looked good the last couple times we've seen him, but I don't think it's been like, the old Brent Musburger, this baby's over this race. Like, I don't think we're there yet, and I'm certainly not expecting Ohio State to come out of the spring and go, you're the guy, everyone else, please, whatever you do, please don't hit the transfer portal. I think this is something that probably is going to go into the fall, which I wonder how many people are truly going to be in that race going into the fall.
Yeah, and you eventually have to narrow it down some. I thought it was interesting watching practice yesterday, and I walk away thinking, people are raving about Julian saying beforehand. It's like, I don't know that he really did anything that blew me away yesterday. But then I go through my notes, like I have perfect touchdown pass written, number 10 to number 88, perfect touchdown pass. I had another one, number 10, perfect placement. It's like, maybe I should pay attention, when I'm watching stuff rather than just taking notes, like actually bring it in. But, but they've all had some really good moments, and not just to Jeremiah Smith, to some other guys as well. So I'm not that concerned about quarterback right now. I think they've got enough to win with, but there's so much talent on hand. I'm one of the few people that's not really concerned about right guard or anything like that. But knowing how the season is going to go and how lucky and fortunate you have to be to win it all, like I'm sure there's reason for worry at a number of spots, but I think you're going to see a lot of talent out there today. Quarterback, receivers. How much are you expecting from the running game today?
The running game is never a big factor in the spring game. I went back and looked, and there was a year when Mayan Williams had 100 yards rushing in the spring game. It was like, how did he do that? Because there will be tackling. Maybe it'll be a little bit more of a thing this year because, first of all, they're going to start with thud, which is kind of essentially two-hand touch. Ryan Day specifically said, Trevion Henderson does not need to take any hits. I don't know if Quinshon Judkins, they talked about this being a 1,000 rep kind of thing. I don't know if they're going to view Quinshon Judkins as a 1,000 rep guy because he had 1,000 reps at Ole Miss, or if he's
almost 1,000 carries.
If he's a new guy at Ohio State, I'm not sure how they're going to view him. James People, Sam Williams-Dixon, T.C. Caffey. I'm assuming we're going to see, a decent amount of running from them. The quarterback run itself is also going to be probably more of a factor today. We've seen some of that, and quarterbacks are never going to be live, so it's going to be, how useful are those runs in terms of, figuring out exactly what this offense is going to look like and how effective that's going to be. Not so much, but it does feel like you should see some of the younger guys getting some carries.
Yeah, well, and Justin Fields in 2019 and 2019 had like a 30-yard carry in there, so there's enough running room. Now they will blow the whistle if anybody is near the quarterback while he's running, but we did see some times yesterday where the seas parted in terms of coverage, and his defense is locked in on the receivers, and so a quarterback took off. The amount of quarterback run that you see, the effectiveness of it today will be greatly diminished compared to what you'll see in the fall when everything is live, obviously, but it is going to be a larger factor in this offense.
All right, and just real quick, while we're here, I see how many people are on. I see how many people have hit thumbs up. That means that there's a bunch of you who have not hit the thumbs up, so please hit the thumbs up. It'll help other folks find these shows through, I don't know, some kind of magic. Who knows?
Tubes.
Series of tubes. Please help us with the series of tubes by hitting the thumbs up. We appreciate that. I saw someone in the chat talking about the expected attendance for today. You got the updated tickets sold number, and that was...
It was 65,569. Now, that was as of 30 minutes ago, and that does not include students. So students just walk in, walk up. So we both said 80,000 probably, and that's not without the walk up from the regular public. So I think you could see 85 because it's sunny as heck out here.
Yeah.
It's a little. I'm not even going to say any bad parts about the weather. It's exactly what you should hope for.
Yeah, it's going to be sunny. It's not going to be brutally hot. Yeah. It's not going to be sunny but 35 degrees. I think it's going to be 60 later today, something like that. So, yeah, so 65,000 tickets already sold, not including students, not including the people who wake up this morning and go,
"Let's go.
Well, it's a nice day. Let's go down to the stadium."
A lot of people wait to see, let's just see what it looks like.
Yeah. So this will be, they have gotten 100,000 in here for this game before, probably not getting there today. But if you're at 80,000, 85,000, something like that, even 75,000, that's a remarkable turnout for the, let's do the Allen Iverson practice. We're talking about practice.
Yeah, no, and that's a good look for Fox as well. They'll have good crowd shots to show. What you don't want to have happen is show up like a Minnesota spring game crowd where there's 350 people. Not that that's ever happened here. But this will be a good TV. It's good for recruiting, good for TV, that sort of thing.
And this is a big recruiting weekend. There are a lot of big names on campus this weekend. Guys who are members of the class of 2024 already, signed, sealed, and committed and delivered. 24 guys who are like Max Leclerc, for example, the tight end. LeBlanc.
I got to correct you somewhere.
Goodness. See, I have to help you out at some point. Yeah, Max LeBlanc. I saw, last night he tweeted that he was flying into Columbus. But, I mean, a lot of big names going to be here. So we'll be down, Kevin and I will be down on the field in just a little bit to get a bunch of pictures. We'll throw all of that stuff up. We've got our game thread already going at BuckeyeHuddle.com on the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse. So we'll have plenty of content there, plenty of conversation there as well all throughout the game. So you can look forward to that there. We talked about the offensive line earlier, and, it sounds like from the conversations and the interviews we've done with Ryan Day, it feels like when they talk about the offensive line, it's kind of, we got to get the right side of that offensive line figured out, and then it's like a pause, and then the right guard position, which is like they came into the spring with, Josh Simmons is going to be the left tackle, and Donovan Jackson's going to be the left guard, and, I don't know, Josh Fryer's going to be in there somewhere, we'll figure it out. It feels like Josh Fryer has kind of cemented himself as the right tackle, and now it's just a matter of, you've got a couple guys, you've got Seth McLaughlin and Carson Hinsman at center, you've got a mishmash of guys at right guard, including potentially Carson Hinsman, maybe Seth McLaughlin in that mix there as well. This feels like, first of all, this feels like night and day from where this offensive line was a year ago.
Very much so. And the question marks, we've talked before about the almost panic in Ryan Day's voice after the spring game last year about the offensive line, because remember it was Zen Michalski at right tackle and Josh Fryer at left tackle leaving spring last year, and Zen Michalski now is the number 2 left tackle, which is what he ended up being last year, and he's still there because Josh Simmons has played well. But I am expecting what we've kind of seen at the start of every practice that we've been to, which is Luke Montgomery at right guard, and then we'll see what happens from there. So I do think it's meaningful that he has been that number 1 right guard. We'll see if that holds true today as well. But yeah, don't be surprised. I know most people aren't going to be like each series, each drive, I wonder who's at right guard right now. Hey, it's a different guy at right guard. I don't know how much people are going to be paying attention to that, taking their keeping score at home. But you'll see 3, I'd assume 3 different guys in there running with the ones, and being Carson Hinsman being the other, Tager Shabola being the other. I do wonder if we'll see some Tager Shabola at right tackle with the ones. We've seen George Fitzpatrick there as well, just to give Josh Fryer a break, because again, he's not a guy that you need to give as many reps to anymore. He's a 5th-year senior, starter last year, so got plenty of experience, and I think you still want to see depth be built on the edges as well.
And you do wonder how they're going to sort out the offensive line, because it's just they're out there constantly, and those are guys who are going to need a break at some point.
Yeah.
So are you running one offensive line and then you're running another offensive line, and one of them, Carson Hinsman's running the center, the other one, Seth McLaughlin's running the center, and then one of them, whoever you're sliding guys around. I wonder if they're going to keep the ones together versus and then you've got another one where you've got a couple guys out there with the 1As or however it is, because at center they've been rotating Seth McLaughlin and Carson Hinsman all spring, and it's really been a just about 50-50, I would say.
Yeah, it has, and we've also seen where they split up the 1s and 2s and like mix them together, and maybe that's what they do here, so that you're not giving the second quarterback the number 2 offensive line. Mm-hmm. You're giving both quarterbacks the 1.5 offensive line, so there's some even footing there, because there's no advantage there particularly. So maybe that would be a good way to go, because we have seen that before. And we've also seen all of the quarterbacks roll through with the 1s, but the only way you can do that here is if you're pulling quarterbacks during drives, assuming you've got a sustained drive, and it's like
I don't think
2 or 3 throws or handoffs for one quarterback, then the next guy comes in. That's not generally what we see on spring games.
No, I don't think so, because they grade these quarterbacks on a million different things. One of them is just how did your drives go?
Yeah.
You know, and so if you pull a guy in the middle of the drive, who are you crediting for the touchdown? The guy that got them halfway down there, or the guy that got the second halfway?
The closer?
Yeah.
The starter?
Yeah. So I would expect you're going to see some continuity in terms of quarterbacks and probably for offensive line throughout those same drives as well. We'll see if they have. We'll see if what that looks like in terms of the rest of the game. We do need to get through the scoring for the game. You have the scoring pulled up because
Yes.
it is offense versus defense. So I probably do not need to tell you how offenses score points in football. The defenses, it's a little bit of a different thing.
Yeah. Defense is 6 points for a touchdown. Now the extra point would still go to the touchdown to the defense. The defense gets 3 points for a takeaway. It gets 3 points for a 3 and out. A sack is 2 points, and a forced punt is 1 point. So a 3 and out with a forced punt would be 4 points. Tom, which led us to our pre-show discussion. Don't punt, and if you're going to go 3 and out, just go 4 and out, and then you've taken away the points. You've gamed the system. Chip Kelly, smart guy, offensive mastermind. I wouldn't be surprised if he helped put these rules together, knowing that there's a loophole, kind of a back door into the system. He can hack in and keep the defense off the board. Just don't turn it over.
I think you probably are going to see a little more aggressiveness in terms of fourth down decisions because, let's be honest, there's not that big of a downside. I'm sure they want to win. I don't know if they're still doing the champions dinner or
Beans and weenies.
The losers have to do landscaping in Buckeye Grove or whatever. They've done a bunch of different things. We've seen the losing team have to walk back to the Woody after the game in the past. We'll see. The defense this year, I saw someone in there saying defense is definitely going to win. It feels like that has kind of been the story of the spring, is how good this defense is. And the offense, obviously, incredibly talented. But we've seen the defense look really good at times. Defensive line especially look really good at times. Tony, I'm not going to ask you for a score prediction, but I'm going to ask you for a tone of the game prediction. Is this the defensive line is the big story and then everyone's worried about the offensive line? Is this, the wide receivers go off and then everyone's worried about the secondary? What are you expecting this to be?
Well, I don't expect to see the Ohio State starting defensive line much beyond the first drive or two, because obviously all of the seniors there. I do think you're going to see maybe some weak links in the offensive line. It only takes one bad step to make an offensive line look bad, as we saw last year in the Cotton Bowl. So you could have, if with this split offensive line that we were theorizing, where you could just continue to attack one or two weaknesses on each offensive line, and that makes the entire thing look bad and the defensive line look very good. In terms of a tone, we've seen the short yardage not go well for the offense, and I don't know how much we'll see that today. But Cody Simon's probably not going to play much. The experienced secondary is probably not going to play much. So I think you might see defense look good early, and then maybe the offense starts to take over a little bit. And I'm interested to see how well the scoring is done on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And if, is the offense going to be down by 17 points at some point and have to come flying back? It'll be fun to watch. Hopefully all 4 quarters.
Yeah. And if you were just joining us, please hit that thumbs up button. When we get to 100, I don't know, something exciting happens. Tony's wife said so. I don't know. If she said so, it must be.
Yeah, it's like the algorithms really kick in. It's like supercharging.
There you go. So hit that thumbs up button for us. And so going through the defense, we talked about the defensive line already.
Yep.
We should talk about the linebackers, because I think that's an area where you've got a lot of people excited about a lot of the names there. You said Cody Simon probably, we're not expecting Cody Simon to play a ton, which means you're probably going to see more of CJ Hicks, more of Sonny Styles, more of Gabe Powers. Is Arvell Reese in there a bunch? I mean, you're going to see some guys who a lot of people have been asking about or wondering about and we just haven't seen for quite a while. I think those are people I'm really interested to see today, because it feels like the conversation around those guys has been positive, and we've seen, certainly some encouraging signs during the practices we've seen. This is an opportunity to see them in some really extended run, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much blitzing. C.J. Hicks does, because I don't think that's the question with him. It's the stopping the run type of thing, on hitting the right hole, hitting the right gap, and things like that. And how much do we see of that? Because again, we don't know how much running we're going to see. Probably won't see a ton, but when the opportunities are there, will he be making those tackles? How much does Sonny Styles play? He's playing a new position, but he doesn't necessarily need too many snaps. So
I think he plays. I think he plays more than someone who was a starter last year would be expected to play. I'm expecting to see more of him than like Jordan Hancock, for example.
Yeah.
Because he's got 1,000 reps, but he doesn't have 1,000 reps at linebacker, and that was such a late change. That happened right at the start of spring ball, so it wasn't like he was going through, January and February in those linebacker meetings. We saw him. There were pictures of the safety group getting together for dinner, and there's Sonny Styles, and the linebacker group getting together, and no Sonny Styles, and everyone's freaking out. So that was a relatively late change. I think you're going to see a decent amount of him today.
He's still fighting C.J. Hicks for that spot. C.J. Hicks has been with the ones the entirety of spring that we've seen, and that was the case yesterday as well. So it's not like he's secured his position that he can just, relax and just hand it over to Garrett Stover, who we saw flash a little bit yesterday. But I also think you'll see some walk-on linebackers getting some play, because there are only so many linebackers in this defense, and again, you don't need to play Cody Simon all that much. We'll see a bunch of Gabe Powers, I think, which will be good for him, and he's been commended all throughout the offseason and through spring as well.
All right, so I had to do a little house cleaning in our comments there. Good practice, spring, good practice for all of us, even YouTube folks. So, looking at the secondary now, I feel like we need to have set expectations here. The secondary is very good. The secondary is going to be fine this year. You have seen Davis Nigbenosian. You have seen Denzel Burke. You've seen Jordan Hancock. Lathan Ransom's not going to play, but Lathan Ransom is going to be back this fall, and maybe he'll play a little bit. He really has not done much. I'm expecting him to basically sit. And you've seen Caleb Downs, not at Ohio State, but that this is going to be a good secondary. So to me, anything good that you see from the wide receivers today is, okay, that's really good news, and not, oh boy, is the secondary potentially a liability.
No, I would agree with that. And I feel bad for Calvin Simpson-Hunt. He's redshirt freshman cornerback, very good, very all kinds of talent. Has been in some of these Jeremiah Smith highlights where he's right there.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah Smith is still making the catch. Ohio State released one yesterday of Jeremiah Smith going over Simpson-Hunt and tapping the ball to himself and catching it. It's like, what else are you supposed to do? Yeah. Simpson-Hunt has actually tapped the ball as well. So you can't fault the defense for things like that. But we'll see Aaron Scott out there, true freshman corner. Probably see Jermaine Matthews in the slot a bit as well. So you get to see some of these young guys. Jalen McClain at safety, Jaden Bonsu, redshirt freshman, probably your number one strong safety. After, if they give Lathan Ransom, we haven't seen him at all, but like you said, maybe a cursory, go ahead and go out there ceremonially. But you'll see Bonsu, number 21, out there as well. And we'll see if we see Jihad Carter.
Yeah, he was not out there for most of the practice that we were at on Friday, so I don't know if there was an injury situation or what. He just wasn't out there. We didn't get a chance to talk to anyone after the practice. To answer Sue's question, yes, there is a usual Ryan Day. There's usually a full Ryan Day press conference after the game. We'll probably get to talk to a bunch of guys. DeMarcus, yes, we'll circle back to the quarterback. We did talk about them earlier, so we're just kind of working our way around the field. I know we've had some folks hop on since we did that. We will get back to those, and because I'm sure that's we'll talk about Jeremiah Smith too. So hang on, hit the thumbs up button. Hang on. When we get to 120 likes, we'll talk more about Jeremiah Smith. This is. We can use the carrot approach or the stick approach. I'm not going to talk until you get 120 likes. But we'll use the carrot approach.
Yeah, I will say the post game we will have Ryan Day. The plan right now is to have Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles as well. Mm-hmm. Will Howard, Devin Brown, perhaps Lincoln Kienholz, perhaps Jeremiah Smith, probably Denzel Burke, because he is always good to talk to. and maybe a couple of other players in there as well.
Denzel Burke is always so great because we've said this before, but you just get a very unvarnished answer from him on it. It's like, how does this guy look? And if he says this guy is good, it means yes, this guy's really good. And if the guy's not been good, it's like, yeah, I kind of need to see more. Like
he's got work to do.
Yeah, got work to do. This is a big recruiting weekend. I think there are at least some guys on commitment watch. May see something. You could see something as early as this morning. We'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll as soon as there is news, we will have that for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. But lots of big names in town this weekend for that. We talked about the crowd. We talked about the weather. We've talked about recruiting. Do we need to talk about the special teams, or do you want to circle back to the quarterbacks? And we've hit 120, so we can talk about Jeremiah Smith as well.
Yeah, I mean, special teams. Kicking, the placements were looking good yesterday, and they were not ideal conditions. Punting struggled because there were not ideal conditions. Interestingly, the place kicking was going in the opposite direction of the punting, which may have explained why one was looking good and one was looking poor.
And it is going to be a little windy today. We're trying to figure out if the flags on the flag and the flagpole's blown a little bit. It's not Northwestern 2022 wind by any means, but it's going to be a little breezy. So I think the forecast at 20-mile-an-hour winds or something like that. So you may see a little bit, but this is also, guess what? It's Columbus. You're going to be playing in windy conditions at points this fall. Let's see who's got the arm to cut through it.
Yeah, when Ohio State goes to Wrigley Field, or perhaps some nearby Chicagoland area, like Minnesota or something, for the Northwestern game.
You don't normally hear about the wind blowing out during a football game, but you may see the Wrigley Field wind blowing out during a football game.
Basket catching a touchdown.
Yeah. So all right, so let's talk a little bit about Jeremiah Smith again, and then we will finish. We'll wrap up with the quarterbacks. I mean, we said it earlier. This is an opportunity for. You've heard about it. Everyone has heard the legends. Everyone has heard growing numbers of people talking about the legends. You had some great AI imagery work from the practice on Friday, which we did not have an opportunity to take photos or video from. I don't want to set unrealistic expectations, but it feels like he's probably going to do something cool today, and then you're going to have the whole nation kind of talking about oh wow, and this guy's only a spring of his true freshman season.
Yeah, remember the legend of when Deion Sanders goes to the NFL Combine or in Pro Day or whatever to just runs a 40 and then leaves.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith just needs to go catch one pass and that's it. You've seen it. I've confirmed it. And I'm hoping he does something so that everybody can get to see what we've gotten to see. It was cool to watch the high school coaches react. It reminded me of when I watched Breaking Bad, I kind of watched it by myself. And then I watched it for a second time when my wife watched it, and I got to experience all of that stuff, watching her experience all of these things. It was kind of like that. It was like watching, I won't spoil anything, but watching other people get to see something that we've already seen and see them have that same kind of reaction. And so hopefully you guys get that, and I think they're going to shoot for that because the quarterbacks want to look good. And one of the real good ways for them to look like the best quarterback, to look like the starter, is to throw to number 4 in red and then profit. We
were talking yesterday during the practice about, doctors hate this one weird trick, and it's just quarterbacks throwing the ball to Jeremiah Smith and just run the Jeremiah Smith do something cool play. And they have run that with great effectiveness against really good coverage, against good tight coverage from, and there have been times when the coverage has been there and he's just mossed someone. There was one that you mentioned just a second ago where he went up and tipped the ball to himself, and it's that's not, you don't, we have seen some great wide receivers at Ohio State over the last 10 years, 20 years. He's doing stuff that I've never seen people do before, and doing it with just kind of this casual regularity.
Exactly.
Just
yes.
You go and it's oh, I've never seen that before, and you just go. And today it's you walk into the stadium I wonder what I'm going to see him do today that I've never seen anyone do before.
It's very true, and that catch over Calvin Simpson-Hunt, he's doing that while getting 2 feet in. He's tapping 2 feet, and it's all very natural and easy for him. And I'm not saying he's bored by it, but there are times where he makes it look very, very easy, and they'll throw it up to him, and he'll just go get it, and it's I guess that makes sense now. It used to
Yeah.
be like, this is crazy. Now it's like, oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, we have had the wide receivers who are in their spring of their freshman year, and it's, we see just Garrett Wilson just running drills where it's just like a stop or comeback route or something like that, and he's noticeably faster, noticeably more explosive than everyone else in the room as a true freshman. It's like, oh. Or you had the practice in 2020, the first practice right before the world shut down, where Jackson Smith and Jigba had the practice where we kind of went, whoa, like you had seen the high school highlights and kind of went, whoa. Marvin Harrison did crazy stuff early, and the expectations for him were off the charts. The bar is really high, and it feels like he's just like routinely clearing it, which is just crazy.
Yeah, what we've seen from him this spring is like the Voltron of all of those other receivers. What we saw in the spring is just like built on it and made it something even more. Because somebody asked me earlier, like, have you seen anything like it? I have not. Have you seen anything like this?
No. I mean, we have seen a lot of stuff at Ohio Stadium over the years, and inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. You're seeing stuff that just is a little. It's like this plus, just like pretty impressive. Questions in the chat about the weather. The weather is gorgeous. It's going to be probably pushing 60 degrees or so during the game. Sunny, a little bit windy, not a hurricane force wind, something like that. It's 15, 20 mile an hour wind, something like that. So the quarterbacks will have to drive the ball through it a little bit, but not the gale force winds we have seen at games in recent years. All right, let's talk about those quarterbacks a little bit. Just to circle back, DeMarcus, we got you. We appreciate you sticking with us. It is, this is a more open quarterback competition, I think, than we have seen it a number of times in recent years. Last year, I think it was a pretty open, the legitimate quarterback competition where there were some questions, about, is it going to be Kyle McCord? Is it going to be Devin Brown? And there were times when you heard, Kyle McCord seemed like he was kind of ahead the whole time, but Devin Brown would make a push sometimes and, kind of push for it, but never quite got there. This year, we came into the spring, obviously Devin Brown, having been here for 2 years, is going to be ahead of Will Howard, and it was going to be, if Will Howard has passed Devin Brown by the end of spring, that would have felt like, okay, we have our answer. Well, now he hasn't passed him. So now the question is he hasn't passed him because he's inching closer as he gets more comfortable in the offense? Is this that Devin Brown has just been better? And it feels like you get different answers when you talk to different people about who has been the best quarterback this spring.
Yeah, and kind of like what I was saying earlier with Julian saying, like, he didn't really blow me away yesterday, but you go back and you look at your notes, it's like, well, he threw this and this and this. Same with Will Howard, where I haven't seen any necessarily some spectacular plays, but then you go back to your notes and it's like, oh, well, he threw this one to Jeremiah, this one went to Mecca, and it's like you start to, these things start to the pieces start to come together on them. And with Will Howard and Devin Brown, obviously Devin Brown should stay ahead this spring. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's telling, or it's I'd say fair to Will Howard that they brought him in and have given him the same number of reps as Devin Brown, mm-hmm. to give him an opportunity to show that he can do this. And it wouldn't be fair to him to come in and compete for the starting job, to bring him in to compete for the starting job and give him fewer reps than Devin Brown. So you have to give him the opportunity, but also you shouldn't expect him to overtake Devin Brown in the spring.
And someone in the chat was just talking about, hey, Devin Brown, this is year 3 and he still hasn't really asserted himself, and that's true. He's also he just couldn't stay healthy last fall. So I don't know how much of that to put on the injuries versus he hasn't been productive on the field during games. But some of that's injuries. But some of that's also, we would have people when McCord didn't look great last year say, you have to put in Brown. And my question was always like, what specifically have you seen from Devin Brown on the field that makes you think he's better than Kyle McCord? Other than, like, he can't be worse is not an actual answer. That doesn't actually address the question. I think Devin Brown is probably still ahead, which Devin Brown should still be ahead. I don't know if deep down in his heart, Ryan Day thinks more than one of these guys is good enough to be the starting quarterback right now, and that's why the quarterback position is open, or none of these guys are good enough right now where you want them to be.
you've got two guys that are similar, but is it a good similar or is
Yeah.
it a bad similar?
Yeah. Super chat from Ryan Dawes wants to know if there's an injury report. I don't think we've seen an actual
No,
availability report.
I wouldn't expect that.
Just to run through the guys who I know we've seen are out or have not seen. Yesterday, like safety Jihad Carter, for example, was out for quite a while. I don't think we saw Lorenzo Styles
Right.
Jr. during the practice yesterday. Lathan Ransom has been recovering from his injury. He's
Caution.
fine. That's just a precautionary thing. Malik Hartford has been out this spring.
And he's been running around, but he's not doing anything physical.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is just cautionary. Just thinking through. Brandon Innes was on a scooter yesterday, so yeah, he's not.
He tweeted out he'll be back soon, so that's nothing super significant.
Sue says there is an availability report. She saw it on Twitter. So
well, we've been doing this for the last 30 minutes.
You will have to pull up your phone and see if you got one, rather than us trying to do this off the top of our heads.
Thanks, Sue. You should be with us here.
Just thinking through other guys. Dallin Hayden was not at the practice yesterday. Peyton Pierce. Sue says Peyton Pierce. Yeah, Peyton Pierce has been out all spring. He's the true freshman linebacker. I'm not expecting you to see a lot of Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, the returning guys who've had a ton of reps. They're healthy, they're fine. It's just you're not going to see a ton of them just because you're not going to see a ton of them because they don't need to play. They want to get the younger guys more reps. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else who...
No, there's nothing official from Ohio State that I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, not an official availability report. Tight ends, I think we've mostly seen everyone all spring. Wide receivers other than Innes, I think everyone's been... Kojo Antwi was in a limited contact jersey earlier in the spring, but I think that he
played yesterday.
He played yesterday, yeah.
Court Williams, we have not seen him all spring, still currently on the roster, but they did say at the start of spring he would not be available this spring.
Yeah. Someone asked just about the three guys we're most excited or interested to see on each side of the ball. I'll say Jeremiah Smith, J.J. Smith, and Jeremiah S. Really, I think you have to look at Jeremiah Smith. I think you have to look at the quarterbacks. Really all of the quarterbacks. I just want to see all those guys and the right guard position. How does that? What is that's not three guys, but that's three. It's one guy and two position battles that I think are the most intriguing right now on offense.
I'll throw out two other guys that don't be surprised if they stand out at some point and haven't played. Bryson Rogers, redshirt freshman slot receiver. James Peoples, the true freshman running back. I am also interested to see how much Quinshon Judkins plays, as you said, because he's had some good moments this spring, so we'll see if that continues. Defensively?
Defensively, before we do defense, let's get to Jordan Kapler super chat because he didn't say anything mean. He wants to know who would on the beat, the Ohio State football beat, which is a sizable group,
figuratively
in more than one ways. Who would win in a knockout round of knocker ball, a winner take all? I think, I know low man wins. But boy, I think I would have a tough time betting against Bill Landis.
Yeah,
I think Landis is probably a good.
Tim May is a horse guy, so he's able to control big things.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's, I don't know if being a cowboy kind of helps in this regard.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just going to throw this out there. I still want to see it. Maybe we can see it one day. Start the knocker balls at the top of South Stands.
Oh man, that would be like that cheese rolling contest in England. That is okay. You're not allowed to leave this yet. When you're done, and when you've watched 4 other videos on the Buckeye Huddle channel, then you have to Google or search the cheese rolling contest on YouTube.
See the gal from Ohio who trained for that and went over there and won it.
Training for that just seems like you're just breaking bones.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
It just like the scene in Fight Club where he's just punching himself in the face. Like that feels like that how you would train for that. All right, so let's hit the 3 defensive players we're most interested to see. I think you have to say Caleb Downs.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued to see that. I'm intrigued to see just the linebacker position on the whole. I want to see what that looks like. How does C.J. Hicks look? How does Sonny Styles look? How does Gabe Powers look? I'm kind of intrigued as a sideline here. I'm kind of intrigued by the helmet radio technology and how does that work, and what's that communication like today? Because it's all kind of new, and they're trying it out, and we'll see how it all works. I'm sure there are going to be some hiccups. They've spent all spring practice under some weird restrictions from the NCAA that only 3 guys can have it. So there's one practice the quarterbacks have the helmet radios, and the other practice the linebackers have the helmet radios. So all that kind of communication. I think you might see some busts in coverage, or you might see some busted plays just because of communication issues, but that's the stuff you got to figure out now so you don't have those issues in the fall.
I'm interested to see if there's a defensive lineman that goes off and has like 4 sacks, 4 touch sacks, like Edric Houston playing later on, going against some young offensive tackles. We've seen him have some good moments. Could he have one of those big games where now everybody's talking about him, like, oh, they got to find a way to get him on the field? It's like, well, actually, he's the number 6 defensive end at this point. Or if Josh Mickens can do it as a redshirt freshman, because we haven't really talked much about him. Could he kind of step forward and become that guy?
And I think in some ways, like the first half is what everyone remembers from the spring games. The second half is when there's maybe the most intrigue in terms of you get to see these guys for the first time, and sometimes it's the only time you're going to see them, except for garbage time in the Rutgers game or the Akron game or whatever. You're going to see a lot of these younger guys just get a chance to make an impression, and during the post game, we'll talk to Ryan Day after the game. It's if Ryan Day says, "Yeah, he flashed," that's like, okay, so you have seen it. You've got to just show what you can do. And then it's just a matter of doing that more consistently. But this is kind of the first, there we go, the 4-star tight end, Nate Roberts, just committed to Ohio State. Yeah, we were expecting that to pop sometime before the game. That has now happened.
You can read about it on BuckeyeHuddle.com.
You can read about it on Buckeye Huddle. It's amazing how fast Kevin typed that story. But yeah, that's a big one for Ohio State. He is a very, very talented, tight end, and that's a spot where they're going to have to. That tight end room is kind of a little bit of a mystery box right now because they've lost guys to the portal. G. Scott must be out of eligibility after this year, right?
He's a 2020, right?
Was he?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And because did he take a redshirt season? So theoretically, he could maybe have a COVID year still, but maybe no.
His redshirt freshman year was the COVID year.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
His true freshman year was the COVID year.
So
he played in 2021.
And then you've got a bunch of younger guys. You've got the transfer Will Kazmarek from Ohio University. Lots of guys in that room. Lots of opportunity. Lots of reps. Jelani Thurman's another guy I'm kind of interested to see. Yeah. We've seen him flash at points here in the spring. Anything else that we need to touch on before we wrap this up? Because I gotta go head down and start.
No, I don't. I think we've covered it.
Okay.
Covered a lot of things a couple times.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys all for joining us this morning. We really appreciate that. If you are still watching, hit that thumbs up for us. That just helps. There's a magical algorithm, something.
Thank you to all you
who
already have.
Oh, yeah. And we really do appreciate that. We are going to be back after the game with our usual post-game show. It'll probably be a slightly different format than the normal game post-game show because it's a little bit of a different deal. But make sure you join us. Check back towards the end of the game. We might be able to pop on a little early. We'll see how that all goes. But make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell also. If you're not getting notified, if you think you have, unsubscribe, resubscribe, unhit the bell, re-hit the bell, whatever it is. For some reason, sometimes YouTube will make that not work for you anymore, and you have to redo it. So also make sure you join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We're going to have a lot of coverage there today. Lots of stuff in terms of recruiting, lots of stuff in terms of the game, all sorts of good stuff, all there at BuckeyeHuddle.com and on the Huddle Board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse. Member exclusive. If you want to support us, we appreciate the super chats. If you want to support us with the work we do, a great way to do that is to become a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it, guys. We will see you after the game. Thanks again.